This is the first day of the rest of your life. Whether you are young or old, a student, doctor, executive, or homemaker, you're in a competitive environment. You make decisions each day. You need an edge, the ability to gain mental clarity and stay sharp. Be the best that you can be. Someday, your life may depend on it. Welcome to Zox, the Mental Revolution. Zox is the compiled works of Richard Welch, Subliminal Dynamics, Brain Management, and Mental Photography. Zox provides the most precise, best of the best approach for quick gain of your mental abilities. In this training, you will discover many exciting uses, applications, and functions of your brain. You will learn how to gain control over those functions and experience things you have never experienced before. Zox, in cooperation with Educom Incorporated, has permission to reproduce key parts of the trainings created by Richard Welch, the father of mental photography. Through this philanthropic creation, Richard wants to share his success trainings to the rest of the world. Zox is presented in 8 modules. You are now using Module 1. Module 1 of Zox training has the following components: legal statements and disclaimers, a brief history of Richard Welch and his teachings, student responsibility and expectations, the benefits of Richard Welch's trainings and Zox, the brain versus the mind, belief systems, the 5 stages of the conscious mind, the mental photography comparison chart, the learning curve of life, and Albert Einstein's distraction index, a technique to enhance your concentration. This training is intended for a mature audience. You will experience advanced innovations in education and training that are a result of ongoing scientific research. Therefore, we advise parents and guardians who are interested in having their children participate to oversee their training, assist them with each technique, and help them clarify any concepts where necessary. Zox is not a photographic memory course. The techniques and applications of Zox training are solely for educational use. This work is legally protected by international copyright and trademark laws. Copyright 2007, 2008, and others. All rights reserved. No part of this work may be reproduced or displayed in any form by any means without permission in writing from Zox. If you haven't already done so, please print out your student guide for use with Module 1. The following is a brief history of Richard Welch, the father of mental photography.
In October 1975, after 15 highly successful years in the financial planning industry and 1 year of retirement at the age of 34, Richard Welch started on a trek that would place him in history as the father of mental photography. Richard Welch was about to discover a new way to learn at incredible speeds with complete accuracy. Embarking on the new venture, he realized a vision. After 2 months of operating his own speed reading school, Richard had a desire to innovate and improve the results. He wanted a course that would consistently attain results surpassing those attained by the Evelyn Wood Reading Dynamics course, and if possible, in less time. Their course and his were currently producing about 2,000 words per minute, theirs in 7 weeks, his in 10 weeks. Within a very short amount of time, startling things began to take place in the classroom. Several students had broken an existing world record in speed reading, which researched to be 100,000 words per minute with increased comprehension. Back in 1976, two students, a 16-year-old boy and a 35-year-old accountant, exceeded 175,000 words per minute and were still climbing. A few weeks later, the accountant peaked at an amazing 422,000 words per minute and tested with 85% comprehension on completely foreign material. After that, in 1976, another 16-year-old boy mentally photographed at 606,000 words per minute. In front of 30 educators, he took a 100-question in-depth test on the book, scoring a 90% on the material. And he is dyslexic. Richard Welch had found an entirely new method of speed reading, or something like speed reading, that, when taught, produced unbelievable results. Mental photography, also known as subliminal photography. Psychology department staff from several universities performed independent tests funded by Richard Welch. Testing confirmed that anyone with average intelligence can learn to read at astounding speeds, up to 2 million words per minute, with increased comprehension. This was achieved by flashing information at 40 milliseconds on a tachistoscope. Test confirmed that young children, 4th and 5th graders, could rapidly grasp his method. It raised their reading and vocabulary skills several grade years, with only a few hours of using this method. What came to life in 1975 was a phenomenon called subliminal dynamics, with more hidden potential than developer Richard Welch ever dreamed of. Like the child prodigy it was, it continues to amaze people who find themselves shaking their heads in wonderment at the results. Since the research and development never stops, mental photography has reached maturity in time to help an ever-overburdened world to find the answers for tomorrow. In 1991, Richard and Donna Welch decided to take this course, which they called Subliminal Dynamics, on the road and write the next chapter in this ongoing saga. Not only has subliminal dynamics found major acceptance across the United States, but they were also invited abroad to send out the message worldwide. The research and development has led to even more discoveries. Wonderful things began to take place for the students. Noticeable events happened regularly. Everything from winning large amounts of money to psychic events to the healing of health issues. Great things were happening. Richard Welch tested what triggered these great events and developed a scientific way to formalize the outcome based on a simple, formatted input to the subconscious part of the brain. This research also led to the simplification and reliability of the training. Our students go farther and faster with complete ease and better results than ever before. Until this time, mental photography was only taught in the Subliminal Dynamics Seminar as subliminal photography. The Subliminal Dynamics Seminar is held throughout the world and is regularly scheduled in the United States. The tremendous growth experienced by this company is primarily due to student referrals. People from all backgrounds, students, business and industry, education, professionals, law enforcement, military, scientists, and others learn these innovative methods successfully. The applications of this process are limitless, and the implications are extraordinary. As research and growth continue, we look forward to tomorrow's challenges. Welcome to tomorrow.
And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Richard Welch, the father of mental photography. Please follow along as Richard talks about what you will learn and your responsibility as a student.
Hello, my name is Richard Welch. I would like to start off by talking about what is expected of you as a student and what benefits you will gain if you follow the guidelines for the course. Let's start with your responsibility. I will be teaching you several exercises that will help you access a part of your brain that will allow you to open up the full potential and capabilities of your brain. These exercises include Albert Einstein's distraction index, an eye chart drill, a relaxation technique, the mental photography technique, several techniques for triggering recall of mentally photographed information, I will explain each of these techniques in later lessons. They are all very important, but mental photography is the primary vehicle that creates a very strong rapport between the conscious and the subconscious. It is a very, very important part of the course that literally opens up the superhighway to this specific part of the subconscious part of the brain. It acts as a conduit to allow a flow of energy from the mind's energy sources and the quantum energy from the universe to flow through the brain and then throughout every cell of our body. Once we understand how our brain functions, we can control those functions and gain more functions from the use of our brain. By controlling this energy flow, we gain tremendous abilities and potentials that lie within us. Potentials that we have always had, but have not had access to or control over. Expectations. That the student will follow the course outline and discipline themselves to do the exercises associated with the brain management course on a daily basis. This is very important. I will show you how to access this part of the brain and how to gain control over it. Once you have learned to access this part of the brain, you must maintain it by continuing to do some simple exercises. To access this part of the brain is like opening a superhighway for information flow. If you do not keep the superhighway open through continuing to do the exercises, it can become cluttered. Think of it as sweeping the surface clear of debris so the traffic can go on unimpeded. I will give you very specific applications and uses of the process to use on a daily basis to keep your superhighway wide open and accessible. It is also an expectation for you to realize and accept that the experience of mental photography is quite different from the experience of reading. The course is not about developing an eidetic or photographic memory. This is brain management training. Mental photography is the primary vehicle that expediently creates a very strong rapport between the conscious and the subconscious. It opens many doors to our vast potential by building these bridges. Now, what does that mean? That means that mental photography itself is not this entire course. It is a very, very important part of the course that literally opens up your superhighway to this specific part of the subconscious part of the brain. It acts as a conduit to allow a flow of energy from the mind's energy sources and the quantum energy from the universe to flow through the brain and then throughout every cell of our body. Once we understand how our brain actually functions, we can control those functions and gain more functions from the use of our brain by controlling this energy flow. We gain tremendous abilities and potentials that lie within us, potentials we have always had, but have not had access to or control over.
Please follow along while Richard continues to discuss the benefits you will receive from this training.
You will improve your ability to concentrate. As a matter of fact, one of the parts of the process that I will introduce to you is called the distraction index. It is a tool that was developed by Albert Einstein and was used by him most of his life. It was tested very thoroughly at 2 major universities in the United States following his death. We have been using it ever since 1975, when I decided to accelerate mental photography to very high speeds. This is a tool that will actually lock in total 100% concentration and focus. You will experience a dramatic increase in your awareness and perception. It is so dramatic, a whole new world will open up to you. A world that has always been there, but you haven't been perceiving it or picking up on it before this. You will learn to recognize and trust your intuition and apply it into your daily life. Probably one of the most exciting, beneficial, and certainly interesting studies that has been done discovered the one common thread that all Fortune 500 chief executive officers had. And that was that they listened to their own hunches and intuitions and had the good sense and the guts to act upon them. That one common thread was not logically what you might think it would be. It was not how long they had been with a company. It was not how much they knew about their products or what kind of rapport they had with the people within the company. Trusting your intuition is a very important thing to understand, recognize, and use. You will require less sleep, and you will get more productivity from your sleeping time. This is because you are going to be activating a true whole brain activity, not just the use of left and right hemispheres of the brain, but literally the use of all levels of consciousness as well. You will learn to relax and reduce stress, a natural byproduct of using this process. You will begin to operate more from the subconscious part of your brain than what you are accustomed to doing. You will find that this alleviates stress. You will be reducing stress as you work through your normal daytime activities. Things that have bothered you in the past are still going to be there, but they simply will not bother you as they have in the past, and you'll find yourself experiencing less stress. You will become better organized. You cannot help but become better organized because you're going to be opening up a part of your brain that its total function is to do things. It is not a thinker. It is not an analyzer. This is your subconscious part of the brain. The primary function of the conscious part of the human brain is to think and to analyze. And so most of our lives we have been taught to deal with our brain in a way that it truly is not designed to function. We are asking our conscious, analytical, logical brain to do things, and that is not its function. Its function is to think and analyze. And that is why we get caught up so often in what we call procrastination. Everyone has experienced that, I'm sure, many times in your life. We have all the greatest intentions in the world of getting things done. But as we think about them and analyze them over and over again, during our waking hours, at the end of our day, we find ourselves mentally exhausted. But what have we accomplished? We haven't done anything. A good example of that is to take a look at your daily planners. What is on today's daily planner that was there yesterday? And what is on yesterday's daily planner that was there the day before? We all procrastinate. But if we figure out and understand how our brain actually functions, then we can set ourselves up so that it's like swimming downstream with the current, as opposed to trying to swim upstream and fight the current all the time. We are asking our brain to do something that it's really not designed to do. You will be making phenomenal changes in your life quickly and efficiently. By learning how to program your subconscious in a positive way, you can make the changes you want almost immediately. You will also learn to increase your learning speed dramatically. Now, this is not just an accelerated learning course. I'm going to teach you a way to learn how to learn. A way of assimilating information at the rate of 2 pages per second or faster. You will activate a different part of your brain than you use to read with. You will actually be putting information directly into long-term memory. This could increase your reading speed to the extent of some 100 to 200 times the average reading speed. You are going to find that your memory is improved as a natural byproduct of this whole brain learning called mental photography. Neuroscientists have recently discovered that the brain does not stop growing as we previously thought. They tell us that by using whole brain learning, we can think faster, increase our memory, and even defend against Alzheimer's disease. You will be accessing directly into the long-term memory of your brain. In doing this, information that has been buried there, not able to be accessed for years and years, all the way back literally to your birth, is available to you. You will find that information coming forward, and you can use it automatically as this superhighway into the brain opens up to you. The bottom line of all of this is that you will become much happier because you're going to gain a control over your life that you simply have never had before. You will gain a control over your life and the functions of your brain that you have never experienced before, and because of this have an understanding of what you are really capable of being and doing.
Next, follow along and listen while Richard discusses the brain versus the mind, belief systems, and the 5 stages of the conscious mind. These are important concepts that will help you in your learning process.
Many people have heard the phrase, the brain or the mind, mentioned synonymously, and you may hear me talking in this course about the brain or the mind. They are interchangeable, however, they are different. The brain is a physical organ of the body. It sits in our skull between our ears, and the analogy in today's computer language is that it's the hardware. The mind, on the other hand, is a higher level function, mentality. It transcends the brain. In computer language, it would be called the software. It contains the seat of your consciousness and your subconscious. The mind works through the brain, but is not the brain. Then what is the mind? The mind is actually an energy source, very easily measurable, and extends out about 6 feet in all directions from our body. It can be photographed, it can be electronically measured, and it is an energy source that flows directly through the specific part of the brain you will be using. There is another source of energy, and that is universal energy and universal knowledge that flows through the entire universe and also flows through your mind's energy and through our brain and throughout all the cells of our physical body. We will gain control over these energy sources as we go along. Now, like any organ of the body, the capabilities of the brain and the mind must be developed and exercised. Let me give you an example. If you were going to exercise your body to gain control over your bodily functions, your muscles, and their tone and so on, you would probably go to a gym or do some type of an exercise program on a regular basis. This would allow you to tone up your muscles, to gain control over additional functions of your muscular body, to be able to do additional things that you might not be capable of doing right at this moment. The same things hold true if you are going to accelerate the use and capabilities of your brain. You must exercise the brain. You must stimulate it. And to do so, we will give you some very specific exercises to do on a daily basis to keep this superhighway open into this specific part of the brain. This part of the brain has accessibility to these energy sources, and you can gain control over it as you would gain control over your physical body if you were doing physical exercises. The same principles apply. Belief systems. There is a constant with all of us, and that is our beliefs and our belief systems. So let's touch upon that for a minute. Belief systems are based on lifelong personal experience. They are habitual. They are stored in our conscious and our subconscious. They can be changed by conscious effort. They are conceptual, and they can be reprogrammed. Remember, whatever the program is in our subconscious mind, is much like what a program would be in a computer. And just like a computer, a program in the subconscious mind is what actually comes to bear in our conscious level lives. Beliefs create our reality. Once we have established our beliefs, they become part of our subconscious. Our subconscious mind does not like to have its belief systems challenged. It is likely that you will experience this challenge in this course as you are taught the process of mental photography. It is almost automatic that this will take place. What would be the reaction to the challenges of our belief systems? Well, when a person's belief system is challenged, there is a tendency to go through a series of reactions. The first one is disbelief. Normally, when the person first hears about this process, and in particular mental photography, their belief systems are challenged instantly because their conscious, logical brain tells them, I cannot do that. That just cannot be done. And because our conscious, logical brain is also where our ego lies, it translates to, if I can't do it, nobody can. Now, once you hear some more information about this, or you've talked to some people who have gone through it, or looked at a website, or whatever it might have been to get more information about this process, your conscious, logical brain usually backs off a little bit and says, it sounds like this can be done, but I'm not sure yet whether I can do it. However, on the chance that I can do it, I better get involved. I cannot miss out on this because this is something that can benefit me for the rest of my life. Another thing that happens to our belief systems when they are challenged is we go through frustration. You may experience frustration when you start turning pages of books at the rate of 2 pages per second. You may be frustrated initially because you are not used to doing that, and you will grab handfuls of pages. You might miss pages, or pages might bend over on you, but be assured you will have some problems in turning the pages. Frustration in turning pages is natural. Do not get discouraged. You are on the right track. You may even go through a rejection. Is this ever going to work for me? Am I ever going to be able to turn these pages smoothly and easily? But that emotion usually passes as you just use the process. You will come to a resignation stage. You will know, in fact, that this can be done. The next stage is acceptance. You will know, I can do this. I have seen myself doing it. I understand how to do it. And so it has become something that I can truly, truly accept. Then you will be ready for another stage, and that is, you need to use the brain management training. Use it over a long enough period of time, at least 4 weeks on a regular basis, so that it becomes natural and automatic and a habit. At that point, you no longer have to think about the mechanics of doing the exercises. It becomes an automatic part of your day. You simply can fit it right in. It is like putting on your shoes or your clothes in the morning. You do it every day. It's automatic. You just don't think about doing it. There is no longer any frustration or anxiety or concern over it at all. The benefits then become enormous and consistent.
Now, let's find out more about mental photography. Please follow along and listen while Richard explains the difference between mental photography and other types of reading. He will be referring to the mental photography comparison chart and the learning curve chart.
The use of mental photography will allow you to keep up with today's world. The world is accelerating at a fast pace, and we are going through exponential growth. In 1995, more new information became available to us than in the previous history of mankind. When we think about that, we know there is no logical way that we can keep up with the new information that we are being exposed to through reading. It is too time-consuming. We do not get it the first time we read it. We have to read things over and over and over again to hopefully grasp and understand the information a little better. We do not have the time to do that. It has become a physical impossibility to keep up with our own studies, to keep up with our own occupations, let alone read anything else we might need to read or want to read. Look at how we use our conscious and our subconscious when we read and when we mentally photograph. There are three basic categories I will compare: traditional or conventional reading, speed reading, and mental photography. Look at the chart entitled Mental Photography Comparison Chart in your student workbook. You can see immediately that there are definite differences between these three categories. Let us start with traditional reading. First of all, when we read conventionally or traditionally, we are taught to read every single word. What do I mean by that? When we go to school, we are taught to focus on each word, and as we focus on each word, we are then told that we need to say that word. Initially, we say the words out loud in the class as we read. Then our teacher comes to the class one day and says, "Now, students, I would like you to all read to yourself." The only thing that changes from that point on for the rest of our lives is that we say the words inwardly to ourselves. We talk the words inwardly to ourselves or sub-vocalize the words. This is a physical phenomena that can sometimes be seen as we observe a person when they are reading. Their lips may move as they are saying the words to themselves. Reading requires two specific things. We must focus on the words, each individual word, and we must talk each individual word. As long as we are doing that, talking the words, we are giving ourselves a definite physical limitation as to how fast we will ever be able to read. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, the world's fastest talker talks at a little over 600 words per minute. None of us talk or read anywhere near that speed. As a matter of fact, as the chart points out, the average reading speed is about 250 words per minute. Likewise, the average talking speed is around 250 words per minute. What does 250 words per minute represent? The average page of print has somewhere between 300 and 350 words on it, so you are actually reading at less than a page per minute. Now look at the comprehension. Remember, these are National Education Association statistics from the United States. This chart shows that when we read something and then take a test on what we have read, the average comprehension is only 50%. We have already forgotten 50% of what we have read by the time we complete reading it through one time. Why? Why do we have such poor comprehension with reading? Again, once we understand how our brain functions, we understand this statistic. We're using a short-term memory function of our brain when we read. We do not get it into long-term memory. Consequently, it is very short-term. As we can see, we have lost 50% or forgotten 50% of the information by the time we even complete reading it. What is even more remarkable is that within 2 days, within 48 hours after reading something through one time, we lose 90% of the 50% we got originally. So we are actually only retaining about 5% of what we read beyond 48 hours. Scientifically speaking, the brain is divided into 5 brain systems. In the dicephalon system of the brain is the organ called the hippocampus. The hippocampus stores the short-term memory of what we read, until these memories are transferred to the cortex or long-term memory. Unfortunately, The hippocampus acts as a leaky water glass. Over the next 48 hours, 90% of what is stored in the hippocampus leaks away. This happens prior to the information and knowledge being transferred to the long-term memory in the cortex. Once the information has reached the long-term memory, we consider it learned. Mental photography bypasses the hippocampus, or short-term memory, and puts the knowledge directly to the cortex, or the long-term memory. This is why mental photography tends to work much better than reading for everyone, including dyslexics. This is why we are taught in school that we must read things over and over and over again. In other words, we must study them. We must go back and take notes over them. We must discuss them. And then we must go back and cram, if you will, or study, review and review and review right up until the moment we take a test, so that we can retain it long enough to pass the test that says we've learned it. Now the reality is we really didn't learn it at all. All we did was retain it long enough to pass the test. Any adult will readily admit that they long ago have forgotten over 90% of what they passed tests on, and supposedly therefore learned in school. We just don't have much long-term memory involved in the learning process that we are taught in school, with reading as the vehicle. Let us go on to speed reading. What is speed reading, and what is required in speed reading? First of all, the same two things are required in speed reading that are required in reading. We must focus on the words, and we must vocalize or subvocalize the words. The only real difference is that we are going through the material at a fast pace, and it becomes a physical impossibility to say every word out loud or to ourselves. We are taught in speed reading courses to focus on and talk or subvocalize the most important words on the page. These are words that may be capitalized, in italics, or possibly quotes, numbers, things that are outside the normal flow of print. They are words that almost jump off the page at you as you are coming down the page at a faster speed than would allow you to say all the words. Interestingly enough, something does happen that is different from reading when we speed read. Our comprehension goes up to about 60% from going through the material one time. That's a decent improvement. And of course, the retention factor actually gets better. It's relatively good for about 1 week, then it drops off dramatically. Why does speed reading have a higher comprehension and a longer retention? Again, once you understand how your brain functions, you understand what is happening when you are speed reading. Because we do not have time to focus on these words or subvocalize them when we speed read, these words were thought to have been lost in space. But the fact is they are not lost in space. They are actually mentally photographed with another part of our brain and stored in long-term memory. That allows our comprehension to be a little stronger and our retention to be a little bit longer. The reason that it is not as good as we might experience in mental photography is that we are still reading by focusing on and subvocalizing the most important words on the page. So in essence, we are losing those words very rapidly. They are only hitting short-term memory. Our use of this information or retention of this information when we speed read is a little bit better, but not significantly so. Now look on your chart at mental photography. We are mentally photographing the information as it goes by at the rate of 2 pages per second or faster. That means there is no longer a need to focus on or subvocalize these words. This is where beliefs are important. You have been trained to read information by looking at the words. You believe you are getting the information because you have read every word. But remember what you have just seen on the chart. You only retain 5% of the information you read one time after 48 hours. There is no retention in short-term memory. Learning something new will challenge this belief. Be patient. You have been learning through reading for years. Do not think of mental photography as a replacement for reading. Mental photography is an enhancement. You do not have to give up reading to learn how to mentally photograph. Mental photography begins at approximately 25,000 words per minute. That is the rate of 2 pages per second with relatively large print involved. Notice there is a plus sign behind the 25,000 figure. That is because we do not know of any limitation other than the limitation of how fast a machine or a computer might be able to flash the information in front of our eyes, or how fast we might be able to physically turn pages of a book. Those are the only limitations we have found. We have found no limitations to the brain. You can assimilate information directly into long-term memory through the superhighway. You will learn that through mental photography, an average comprehension the first time through the material can be as high as 77% when physically turning pages. Now, the reason you may not reach 100% is that you are not used to turning pages at these speeds, and remember, as I mentioned a little earlier, you may be frustrated initially. Later on, the frustration will go away even though you will still be missing pages while turning at these speeds. Now, we have found that the average number of pages you will miss is 23% as you go through a book. If you go through a book and miss 23% of the pages, you were not able to mentally photograph those 23% of the pages. Therefore, 77% comprehension becomes your average from going through the material one time. If you want to get into the 90 percentiles in comprehension, we recommend you photograph your book 3 times. You will miss some pages each time, but they will not be the same pages, and you will have mentally photographed over 90% of the pages by going through the book 3 times. What is very startling and different from reading or speed reading is that once you have mentally photographed this information into long-term memory, retention becomes 100% for life. Why? Because you are directly putting it into long-term memory. You will not just hit the conscious level and short-term memory as you do when you read or speed read. So the retention factor is way beyond anything concerning reading or speed reading. I would like to draw your attention to another graph that you have in your manual called the learning curve of life. Again, this is a graph that is put out by the National Education Association in the United States. It vividly points out what happens as we change the methods of learning as we go through our life. Notice that from birth until the age of 5, we learn at a phenomenal rate of speed with total accuracy. Every one of us is born with a photographic recall memory. It is easy to prove. All you have to do is take the young preschool child, read something to them today, a month from now read the same thing again to them, make a mistake. They'll point the mistake out immediately. And of course, there have been many other studies that have shown that young children all have photographic recall memories. But something happens around the age of 5 that reverses this natural automatic ability that they have been using so successfully. Then what happens at the age of 5? We go to school. And when we go to school, we are taught a rote memory system of learning, a method of learning that has reading as its primary vehicle. It is a method of learning that shows us that we must slow down the brain's functions to where we are actually focusing on a letter, then a syllable, then a word, and then as we focus on each word, we must then say each word to ourselves, and that's called reading. As a child, we see the world as a whole. We then break it down into the component pieces that make up our world. When we are taught to read, the idea starts with focusing on only the smallest part of our world, a letter, then a word. This is an absolute reversal of how we learn so efficiently those first few years of our life. Reading creates tunnel vision. As we have seen before, it's not very effective. Look what happens to the learning curve of life on your graph. It goes down from the age of 5 for the rest of our lives. It goes down when we start school, not when we finish school. That is a real eye-opener to most of us. Most of us would logic out in our brain that we would accelerate our learning when we go to school. That is not the case. And again, it is because of how our brain is designed to function. When we get into school and we use reading as our primary vehicle, we start asking our conscious logical brain to do things. That is not the conscious brain's natural function. The conscious level function of our brain is to analyze and think, and that's it. It's not to do anything. The subconscious part of the human brain is designed as the doer. It's the one that does things. It doesn't think. It doesn't analyze. It just does what it is told to do. An example would be a computer that would complete the task of what it is programmed to do. What you will learn in this course is to really understand how your brain functions and how to align it so you can use it in a formidable way. Your conscious, logical brain will be giving the orders directly to your subconscious brain. Your conscious, logical brain analyzes. It goes through a thinking process to come up with what it wants to program into your subconscious. Then your subconscious, or your computer, will do it. Another example would be to think of your conscious, logical brain as the general of the army. It is going to be in charge. The conscious, logical part of the brain is the commander-in-chief. It can take all the credit for the successes of everything that the army or the subconscious can do. How exciting to really know you are in command of the functions of your brain. Let the part of the brain, the subconscious, do it. That's its function. You will notice on the graph that there is a line labeled Now. From today forward, you will find that you will be able to reactivate this beautiful, automatic, natural ability that you have possessed from birth until the age of 5. It was suppressed and shut down due to programming, and using the method of learning we were taught in school. This natural, automatic ability will be reactivated. It does not mean that you will not be able to utilize your own conscious, logical brain. Quite the opposite. You will be using it the way it is designed to be used, and you will also be using your subconscious in the way it is designed to be used, with the conscious mind truly in charge. Welcome to tomorrow.
The first valuable exercise you will be learning is Albert Einstein's Distraction Index. It will help you increase your ability to concentrate for a specific period of time. Richard will explain further.
Does your mind wander when you are trying to read? Is your concentration level lost? If so, you're not alone. The reason the mind wanders is that the brain is used to accepting tens of thousands of bits of information every minute. The world and the technology is moving at a phenomenal rate of speed. We have adjusted to that speed of learning. The speed we read is too slow to stimulate the brain. The brain gets bored and reaches out to other stimuli. You are about to learn an invaluable tool called the Distraction Index. The Distraction Index drill was developed by Albert Einstein, and he used it over his lifetime. Following Einstein's death, 2 major universities in the United States did extensive research on the distraction index. Columbia University in New York State and Florida State University in the state of Florida. Both of these universities were able to determine that a person could go as long as 21 minutes with zero distractions, with 100% locked-in concentration and focus. During his lifetime, Einstein documented that he was able to go as long as 42 minutes with zero distractions, with totally locked-in 100% concentration. This drill has been used very successfully with mental photography since 1975, when our initial breakthrough into the high speeds of mental photography took place. Since then, many of our students have exceeded the 21-minute level. Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the Apollo 14 astronaut, has been able to go as long as 37 minutes with zero distractions and total locked-in concentration. Your starting point is to lock in at the 3-minute level. The 3-minute level was recommended by Einstein and was also recommended by the universities as a starting point. By locking in total concentration for a 3-minute span of time, you are actually locking in concentration for the period of time it takes you to photograph a book of 360 pages at 2 pages per second. All of the books you will be mentally photographing will be less than 360 pages. You will see a considerable difference in your comprehension after you lock in the distraction index. The distraction index does not just work for mental photography. It will carry over into every other element of your life. You will have total 100% locked-in concentration with whatever you are doing.
Before you begin, you will need to collect the following supplies: a pen or a pencil, a timer or a stopwatch, a piece of paper to write on, reading material. Any type of reading material will do. Magazines and newspapers have plenty of pictures and add to the number of distractions you will encounter. Richard will walk you through the instructions for the distraction index drill.
I will describe to you how to perform the distraction index drill. Write, "I won't be distracted by that anymore," on your paper. For the first time you read the material, time yourself for 3 minutes. As you are reading the material, you will experience distractions. By definition, a distraction, in this situation, would be when you have to go back and reread your material. It could be external, a noise, something that bothers you and distracts you. It could be something internally, a thought, or your stomach growling. Whatever it is that would require you to go back and reread your material is a distraction. Although you may be aware of other things going on around you, it should not distract you from your reading. If you do not have to go back and reread your material and you understand what you have read, then you have not been distracted. When you experience a distraction, mark your place with your finger so you can come back and continue reading at the same place. Make a mark with your pencil on the piece of paper. As you come back to pick up reading where you have left off, inwardly say, "I won't be distracted by that anymore," referring to the distraction. Repeat steps 4 through 6 as you experience other distractions. At the end of the 3 minutes, count up the number of distractions, or marks that you have. When you do the drill a second time, you can start reading right where you left off. Read for another 3 minutes. Do exactly the same steps as we did the first time, and perform the distraction index drill. Welcome back. The purpose of this drill is to increase the concentration time with 0 distractions. To lock in 100% total concentration, you must get to 0 distractions only one time. When you do the drill a second, third, and fourth time, you will see the distractions drop off. It usually takes about 3 or 4 times of doing the drill to get to 0 distractions. You started with the 3-minute level. Now progress even farther by increasing the time by 2 minutes to 5 minutes. Again, once you have reached 0 distractions just one time, it locks in. Think of it as an inoculation or a shot that is good for anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months. As you reach higher levels of 0 distractions, you gain the ability to concentrate for longer periods of time. Once you have reached 0 distractions again, go to 7 minutes, and so on until you find your highest concentration level. Each time you reach 0 distractions, always increase the time by 2-minute increments. Remember, it usually takes 3 or 4 times to go through a drill at each level to get to 0 distractions with 100% locked-in concentration. In 6 weeks to 6 months, your awareness levels will have gone up dramatically, and you become very aware when the distractions return. How do you eliminate them again? Do exactly the same drill. Go through this drill and take yourself up to your highest concentration level. Lock in 100% concentration for that period of time for another 6 weeks to 6 months. This drill is very simple, but extremely important. You will be much more efficient in everything you do. It will increase your productivity, and certainly you will become a much more efficient mental photographer by utilizing the distraction index drill. Remember, you do not have to do this drill every day. Once you have reached your highest level of concentration, you will not have to repeat the drill until the distractions creep back into your life. What makes this drill work? The studies of both major universities found that the conscious, logical brain is so upset with this absurd idea of having to make a mark every time you're distracted and tell yourself that you're not going to be distracted by that anymore, that it eliminates the distractions rather than going through that routine. It is almost comical, but it certainly does work, and it is extremely effective. Get this in place. It will make a tremendous difference to you, not only in mental photography, but also in everything you do in your life.
Congratulations! You have just learned your first valuable exercise, Albert Einstein's distraction index. Remember, you do not have to do this drill every day. Once you have reached your highest level of concentration, you will not need to repeat the drill until the distractions creep back into your life. Zox wants you to experience the ability to have 100% locked-in concentration. Your ability to concentrate is a great asset. Your increased focus will help you make better decisions. For over 30 years, Richard Welch has created trainings to benefit people's lives. Isn't it time you gain that benefit as well?